Haere atu I nei kupu whakamanua kia koutou. Huri a meo I te motu reri ana a matihiri hei ho haere mo mihi kia koutou. Kua waihape mai rā ki tā tātou kaupapa. Ko Mihingarangi ahau, māku koutou e arehi. I roto I ngā kaupapa o te wā I te pai o Pāri people nā te Puna Whakatongarewa I Utu. Welcome to our last pod of the year. It's Tuesday, the 14th of December, and To, Shane and I are reflecting on the past year and toasting some chestnuts on the dumpster fire that was 2021. Shane, Taupe hea koutou. How will 2021 go down for you guys?
Oh, it's pretty rough, actually. You know, politically, community-wise, employment-wise, people's mental health. You know, it's just all, it was a real struggle to get through 2021. In fact, I think it was worse.
Yeah.
Than the first time we went around the COVID mulberry bush. So and I think the old COVID whānau hasn't left us yet. I think there's a bit more to come.
100 plus days in lockdown, you know, in one stretch. There was around about the 70-day mark. I didn't have much hope for us getting out of it. We've now moved from red to orange. So hopefully we're seeing the end tail of it and better days in 2022.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what our mokopuna think of us in 100 years' time and reflect back on us. So later in the show, we're going to discuss some of the standout performers and leaders, but first we'll look at some of the political stories that have made headlines, and we'll start with the Taxpayer Union's Curia poll. It's out today, basically says what you two have been saying for the last couple of weeks, got to say. The ACT
They
Party...
should have paid us for that.
Yes, the ACT Party has lost 5.3 points. It's down to 10.6%. Those are likely to have gone to the National Party, which is up on 32.6%. Labour steady on 39.5%. The Greens up slightly on 10.9%. And the Māori Party slightly up on 3%. What do you make of that, Shane?
3 winners. Chris Luxton is a winner. He's up 6. You know, they were going backwards, so he's up 6 probably. So that's good for him. Good for the coalition government. Labour, Greens, and perhaps the Māori Party have a clear majority. We've got to remember, we went from the crazy heights of the last election to the coalition government having plus 10%. Even in the best days that John Key's had, their advantage was about 6%. So still good for the government, but lots of lessons in terms of how they've handled COVID and how they go forward in 2022. But the Prime Minister would be happy with this poll. And let's remember, folks, this is the National Party's / tax unions' own pollsters.
Yeah, but even so, what do you think the right will be saying to each other now?
I think John and Mildred have come back to National from their little holiday in the land of ACT. I think Hone from the Labour Party, the Mad Green, and the Out There Māori Party have increased just a tad. What it says to me is that both Shane and I were right, and you, when we said that the first job of Luxon is to scrounge back as many votes as they can from ACT. That's the base. That's where they have to build from. In 12 months' time, ask me that again, and if they've moved against Labour, well and good. If they haven't, well, then they're not going to win the next election.
And I still expect it to get a heck of a lot tighter. I think that you're going to get, you know, traditionally MMP elections are very tight, 3 to 4%. As little as less than 1%. So I think it's still going to get tighter, and I think the Prime Minister will recognise that, and they'll probably want to try and spend their way out of it, and hope that the tailwind of COVID is behind their back.
Yeah, I know we're mid-cycle, but the Māori Party be a bit excited about 3%. Would that get them another one?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I mean, it's on the cusp of getting another person. Yeah. And so I actually think they've done really, really well, considering where the politics has been over the last 12 months. So, big ups to the Māori Party.
Yeah, it might be your whanaunga up there in the north. I think might have been their third person.
Is she the next on the list?
Yeah, maybe, possibly. Could be wrong there. Anyway, let's move on to another kaupapa. Associate Minister of Health, Aisha Verrell, plans to ban the sale of tobacco and create a generation of smoke-free New Zealanders. Tai, what are your thoughts around this move?
Oh, I think it's wonderful. I think what she's done is realise, or the government has realised that they can't do any more for people like me, who are the recidivists. There's 25, 30% of people who are off or on. So what she's done was look into the future and said, right, I'm doing this for the babies that are not even born yet, and I think that's a good thing. I think that's great. So 10 out of 10 for Dr. Aisha. I think she's just. I think they're in a good space.
How about you?
Yeah, no, if you could give her more than 10, I'd give her more than 10. 3 things. First of all, she didn't go down the old route where you punish people like Toe and just tax, because you've got back to, I'm going to use your words, the recidivism groups.
Although a packet of smokes now, Toe
yes,
must be killed.
but they haven't carried that on, you know, and she's saying that she has some sympathy for those folks that have got left. We have got a pathway. It's not one that we all enjoy, but I think it's just a realistic pathway in terms of getting people off harm minimisation from cigarettes to vaping. We got to fix up that young cohort that are attracted to that, but I think by and large it was quite a brave move.
Ka pai. Well, in other news, a report commissioned by the Independent Māori Statutory Board has found that Māori and Tāmaki Makaurau have borne the brunt of COVID-19. That includes, with what you said earlier, job losses, financial hardship, and those reliant on welfare and food support. Shane, it found 38% increase in a single quarter for the number of Māori on the job seeker benefit in Auckland. What does that mean for the future, do you think?
That means for the future that it's quite typical. When the good times are good, Māori are last on the bus, and when the bad times are bad, they're the first one off. And what we've got to have some infrastructural change. And it tells us that, you know, the economic divide that exists in Aotearoa is getting bigger, and those that are bearing the brunt of it are our own people.
Because we hear that it's actually industry that is bearing the brunt, and we've got, and you know, we're saying we've got to stand up our economy again, but actually these are the actual personal stories in that, eh?
They are the personal stories, and also, you know, what even represents a greater picture is even those people that are in work, they tend to be the minimum wage or just above minimum wage folks. So, you know, the economic split that's happening in Aotearoa between those that have and those that have not is just getting bigger and bigger, and our people are bearing the brunt of it, as they always have.
Can I now turn to the Deputy Chair of that board, Tau Henare? What struck you most about this report?
Nothing actually, and the reason is because continually we put together research and reports that show that Māori are at the back of the bus, in fact falling out the back window, while everybody else is moving forward. Now we put reports to council on a regular basis, and it is a big shame that we don't see movement in some areas, and that's for years on end. It just hasn't happened because of COVID. COVID has exacerbated the position of where poor Māoris are.
Interesting, 2,000 Māori surveyed, so that's a really good group of people cohort there. It found that COVID, of those 2,000, that COVID had put their relationships under stress, or it was a factor in ending them.
Yeah, housing. Lots of people in a small house, not enough kai, abusive relationships, you know, as I kept on saying right throughout this year, all right, for folks like us that have got a big house, lots of kai, you know, when you have that raru, because it happens, you can go to each end of the house, but when you've got 6, 7, 8, 12, 15 people, that's not a reality.
Yeah, it's that cabin fever.
Yeah.
You know, okay, a week with extended whānau, big bubble, you know, a week is okay, 2 weeks, you know, 100 days, I'm out of here. So it's difficult, and Tāmaki, the whole region of Tāmaki, has been in that lockdown basically for over 100 days.
And can I just say this the way publicly, the people that have been griping haven't been our people. It's been the upper to sort of middle class sort of people. If you read the Herald, the people that do have the big houses, homes that do have financial security, they're the ones that are moaning. And I've got to say, good on our people for doing their bit.
Yeah. Well, actually, the Independent Statutory Board often does a few reports like this that have, you know, no one asks these questions of these people, so they've been really helpful for people like myself and obviously decision makers. But you just mentioned it. What do you want them to take out of this? What do you want to happen?
I think one, I would love for council to take us a bit more seriously than they do. I think they've become now used to the fact that we will put out these reports and do a lot of research. We did the same for the regional fuel tax. Nobody listens to us. It's a struggle, but in the end, somebody has to put the heat back on council, and hopefully, maybe in the next local body election, that there will be candidates for mayor and councils and local boards who actually seriously look at the work that the IMSB has done.
Run, toe, run.
Run, toe, run?
Run, toe, run. No, seriously, seriously, we all say this, we all say, oh, we've got to find some good people to run, we've got to find some Māori people with a progressive agenda. Well, sometimes we've got to step up, and I think we should seriously have a look at that in 2022. So I could be your campaign manager.
Okay, well, there we go. We might have some breaking news just there. Also, I think that, the work that's been done in broadcasting, I'm thinking here, you've got this great report, but there's not enough Māori journalists or people, with the interest in that kaupapa to be actually making these reports into stories. So who knows, this time next year that report might become very handy for all these young Māori cadets that are going to be joining these newsrooms. Fingers crossed. Yeah,
and mahi to the Minister of Broadcasting and Willie Jackson that have made that funding available. Very controversial, but what it has meant is that it has meant more people into mainstream media platforms, and we know we need it.
Hey, well, we're moving to the orange from the red. It's like a popsicle, except for Northland. How are you feeling about this, Tau?
Yeah, I'm wondering why poor old Northland has to stay at red when the rest of the country, how many cases we got in the north? Maybe 5, 6, I feel sorry for the north, more so than any other region in this whole country. It could be the crown in the jewel, or the jewel in the crown of our fair country. And it's been neglected like nobody's business, not only up north, but down on the east coast as well. I feel sorry for them. I feel real aroha for the people of the north.
What would you like, though? What would you prefer?
Well, first of all, we should have done the right thing by the north and allowed Māori to run their own program, their vaccination programs and education programs. Secondly, I think that I think regions know where they are. More so than the government in terms of their readiness to either go green, red or orange.
I think that's exactly what Honi Harawira was saying this morning on, I think it was Morning Report. He was saying, don't forget that while we're supportive of these checkpoints and the community checkpoints because we want to keep our community safe, is that the reason that we are not as vaccinated is because we were never allowed that opportunity. And people keep forgetting that in the conversation.
Absolutely. And when you talk to people like Ruben, people like Connie, they want to get out themselves, but they know that this isn't the right time. But here's the reality of the resources, the data, we're given to the right people at the right time. The 15,000 people that they need to get over the line now, I think would have got much closer.
Well, Māori in the latest numbers are 36% of COVID deaths, so that's really shot up, 14 now in the last outbreak. In terms of full vaccinations, while the average is looking around 89%, maybe today that's popped over, who knows, Māori are at 75%, and that's a lot better than the 20% difference a few months ago. Did you expect that?
I always thought it would get better. I always thought that given the opportunity, Māori would go out and get the vax, and I think our big ups to our Māori community providers.
Does it show what's happened? The push at the very last moment when Māori organisations did get handed over resources.
And given all of the hurdles put in front of the providers and the Māori community, we've done amazingly well to get to 76%.
It shows that we are best placed to manage our own matters.
Exactly.
And that the alternative is the status quo that doesn't work for Māori, nor does it work for the taxpayer, nor does it work for the community as a whole.
Yeah, there was another interesting thing that Horny said this morning about, can we just make February Christmas? Because by then we would have caught up, and that's the only fair thing to do. Makes a very good point.
Yeah.
But let's talk about performance and leadership. We'll start with leadership. Let's begin with the National Party leadership for 2021. It started out with Judith Collins and it ends with Christopher Luxon. Tau, your thoughts on their leadership?
Oh, I think it's a sea change for National dumping Judith, and I would have even gone further. I would have thrown her right out the front door, and then out the back door as well. I think she ruined with both Simon Bridges as well, I might add. You've had the scrap for the near on 3 years now, and it nearly destroyed a part of the furniture of New Zealand's front room.
George and Mildred's furniture.
Oh, mate, things were being turfed out the window. But luckily for them, I think Christopher has been able to calm everybody down, get the boat back on a sort of reasonable, even keel. And like I said earlier, his first job was to get John and Mildred back from their holiday in Actland, and they have.
I thought it was George and Mildred,
George
but
and
anyway,
Mildred.
it's
Yeah,
John.
that's right.
John's the New Zealand version.
Yeah.
Shane, your thoughts on just the leadership of the National Party for 2021?
It was ugly for a long time. It's the adults are now in charge. From a Māori perspective, let's see how Chris Luxon operates. I think that the comments about the border control people being nuts was unfortunate. I think that his view on partnership versus co-governance is the wrong one. I think what he needs to do on Māori issues is listen to Chris Finlayson, take a deep breath, and go around and quietly have a kōrero to the Māori community.
We talked about the minor parties last week, so we're going to stay away from them. So let's just go to the Labour Party, the government. Can you tell us your thoughts on the leadership styles and the achievements there?
Yeah, I think the Prime Minister has been a victim of her own success. Yeah. And it's one of those things that has come from COVID. That she's been front and centre every day of our lives for the last 2 years. And some people might be feeling a bit over Prime Ministered. To me, the standout for me in politics and in government has been Grant Robertson. I think he's been a hell of a hand on the wheel of government in terms of where the money's coming from, who's it going to. I think he's outperformed even his wildest dreams.
It's fair for you to talk about Grant Robertson because he's deputy leader, but I just want to say we're in the bunker. That's why you heard like a big
the helicopter,
yeah, it was like a real bunker kind of podcast going on right there. Your thoughts on the Labour Party leadership?
Well, I think a victim of their own success, but in this respect, 0.7 deaths per 100,000 compared to Australia at 7, compared to America twice the amount, hospitalisation and ICU admissions under control. We never really saw the worst effects of COVID. It could have been a heck of a lot worse, so we felt a little bit insulated from that, and that's probably diminished on top of the reasons the Prime Minister sort of glossed. But, going into where we're at, ending 2021 and going into 2022, I think she'll be feeling reasonably happy because it could have ended a lot worse for this country of ours.
Had the first death from Omicron in the UK overnight, and they are getting it in a big way.
There's some pretty stark,
they're going back into lockdown. But here's the other thing that we haven't
messages.
seen in New Zealand. Sorry, Mihi. The other thing we haven't experienced is the effect of long COVID, where people are going to undergo hospitalisations for a decade, maybe 20 years, to the end of their lives. In the UK, tens of thousands. We haven't got that in Aotearoa.
Let's move to government ministers. Who was your best performing minister for 2021?
The best performing, I've got to say it, and he will fall off his chair when he hears me say it.
Okay, drum roll.
Is Willie Jackson.
Yeah. Willie Jackson.
I think he has taken the bull by the horns, and I think he's been very successful. Like Shane said before, in terms of broadcasting money, I think he's been the real kaha behind the Māori in Labour, and quite frankly, I take my hat off to him.
Yeah.
I had this vision of Willie Jackson in Yellowstone on a horse with a lasso and it's party. But let's go to you, Government Ministers, best performing.
I'm going to give it to 3, all right? Nanaia Mahuta, who...
No, just pick one.
No, well, can I just say,
Nanaia
Mahuta. Nanaia Mahuta, because she gave an Indigenous lens to foreign affairs and her work on Three Waters, very controversial. My message tonight, kia kaha, let's get it done. Our tamariki need this to be done. We need clean water, we need drinkable water.
Kia ora.
So pretending we're at the AMP show and you give the appreciation award, so who are the other ones you wanted to talk about?
It would be Willie Jackson. He's a huge negotiator behind the scenes that ensured that the $120 million plus was given to our hauora. And I just want to give a shout out to someone who's been relatively quiet but done the mahi behind the scenes, and that's Calvin Davies. Since he's been the Minister of Corrections, he's delivered 2,000 less prisoners in our prison muster. That's got to be good for our people.
You've been to the AMP show too, so you can have some. Have you got any others, or are you just happy with
Oh, no, look, how can you even say that Calvin Davis has been anything but an absolute abject failure? Not only for the North, where has he been in the struggle that the North has been? He hasn't been anywhere. He hasn't been thumping the table on behalf of the Taitokerau and making sure that nobody goes up there and infects the people. Where's he been when in the case that has been taken by Waipareira, by Whānau Ora, to get all the information that is rightfully ours in the first place? Where's he been?
Toasting some more chestnuts on our dumpster. Yeah. We're now with the poorest performer. Do you have another, or is that yours?
Oh, no, that's it. And I've only got one. I don't need 3.
Who's yours?
Well, you know what? I struggle to think of one because no. Can I tell you why? Because there hasn't been a scandal. No one's got the sack. No one's been demoted. And if you're a cabinet minister or an associate cabinet minister and you're still in a job after 2021, you're done all right.
Yeah, because COVID was running interference for stupidity.
Just generally then, I'm not talking about cabinet ministers or anything. Is there somebody who's been pretty silent? Hasn't done a lot?
Look, at this point in time, I struggle to think of someone who I reckon has been really hard done by. Dr. Shane Reti.
Okay, I'm coming to that.
That's right, the National Party.
The opposition is vital in democracy, as we know, and you often tell us this. So who has done well at keeping the government honest?
I think Shane Reti is the quintessential opposition MP. He plays the policy, not the person, and when it counted most, what did he do? He went back to his people and he made sure they got vaccinated. I think he was one of the bright spots from the last election for the national government. Unfortunately, the poor bugger got demoted, but that's the nature of politics.
Okay, so here's the question, Shane.
Yes?
Would you go out of your way next election to vote for National and Shane Reti?
No.
Why?
Well, because I don't live in Whangarei.
Because it was my question. So who's your opposition member who's kept the government honest?
No one.
None? Okay. Okay, we're moving on to local body representatives. Do you have any that have impressed you this year?
No, I do actually. Yes. There have been a couple in Auckland Council. One of them's Councillor Josephine Bartley. She's been onto it across a lot of things. Also Official Collins, and also Councillor Desley Simpson.
Yes.
I think she's been quite a standout in what she's had in front of her, not only for her ward, but right across the board in Tamaki. I never would have believed that, I would think of her as a progressive. But she has been progressive, and I think she's been wonderful.
Yeah, she has held Gough and his team to account. I think that Josephine and Efeso have done a wonderful job. Also, every day, get up, crack of dawn, and get their people vaccinated.
We're going to crack on to anyone in Māori leadership that's outdone themselves this year. You've got anyone? I
think our hauora executives, our hauora kaimahi.
The whole whānau of hauora?
The whole whānau of hauora that not only delivered for Māori, not only delivered for Pacifica, but delivered for our entire community.
Totally agree. You can't really individualise the effort of our fight against COVID.
Who would, if we actually had one, but we're making this up on the spot, it's the Party People New Zealander of the Year. It's a new thing. If you had to choose, Tau, would you be able to choose a New Zealander of the Year, Party People styles?
Yeah, I'd like to see a Māori of the Year because they are the quintessential New Zealander of the Year. I know people would take the easy route and pick an entertainer, maybe, because it's a feel-good thing. But the person for me who's done the hard yards is Tina Ngata from the coast, in the little wee Hicks Bay, Te Araroa region. And she just continues to amaze me by her strength, of character, and says what she means and means what she says.
Yes, well, if we were on one of those American shows, I'd say, Tina, reach under your seat and there's a gift for you, but not today. Your party people, person of the...
Collective, I've talked about the hōora, but I also want to give a shout out to Māori broadcasters and journalists that...
Oh, kia ora.
that advance our voice that is often silent. And I read some of the ugliness that they have to put up with, and it's terrible that they keep on going. And I just want to give a shout out to our broadcasters and our journalists.
Well, tēnā koe mō tēnā. Political predictions for 2022. No one has a crystal ball, but you guys seem to be able to predict the future pretty well. So, Tau, what's yours? What's happening next year?
I think what will happen next year in terms of national, I think that they will go from strength to strength. I think that Christopher Luxon will drag a lot of them, kicking and screaming, back into that centre playground. I think they will get. Still think they will get a pickup, but not enough to replace the government. That's for 2023.
Ka pai. And you, Shane?
I think we're going to see a strong Māori or Pacifica candidate run for the mayoralty in Auckland, and that I think we're going to see our first brown mayor of Auckland. So that's my prediction for 2022.
Is that a Māori one?
Oh, well, let's see. But I think we're going to see a generational shift, and we're going to see the browning of that mayoral office, and about time too.
Have you got any initials?
I think Mr. Collins could give it a good crack, but there are others that are out there and that we're talking to and that need to be talked to.
Tēnā kōrua. Well, that's it for us. Thank you so much, you two, for all your reckons this time. Thank you all for joining in for the last 7 episodes. We'll be back again February 8th, 2022. Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
If that's your thing. O ngā mihi o
Hope
te
Santa
wā.
Claus comes your way.
He better, do you think?
He better. You deserve it.
You deserve it. You deserve it.
You haven't been naughty like Tau and I.
Ka te kei aku whakatamarahi ki te rangi aku whakaai o ki te whenua, ko pai a tātou mahi ki uta mō te rangi nei. Kia rere anō ko ngā mihi matihiri ki ngā kaupapa kato, ki ngā wānanga kato ko hora i te pai, o Party People ka mahi hoki ki te Puna, Whakatongarewa, mōna i tautoko mai, nohoro mai rā.